DMT, I've used DMT multiple times, is going to have entity encounters. They're going to meet entities who may sometimes look very weird. They may be part animal, part human in form. They may be almost formless, but yet they speak to you, they communicate with you. And of course, the mainstream attitude, this is just rubbish, this is just your brain on drugs. Well, Imperial College, they're now testing that view. And what they're finding is that and something else. DMT, as I'm sure you know, Joe, is a very short-acting experience when you smoke it. It's about 12 minutes, maybe less. You're in there, you're plunged into a completely convincing, sometimes terrifying, parallel reality. It's so confusing, you hardly know what's going on, and then you're out again. But you come out with a feeling that something's been downloaded to you. In Imperial College, they found a way to keep people in the peak state of DMT for an hour. They're delivering it through drip, through timed release, and they're keeping the volunteers in an hour in that state. So they have time to find their way around the DMT realm that they find themselves in. And the astonishing thing is that these volunteers, both men and women, are all coming back with accounts of meeting the same entities and the same world. And it has to raise the question, and I know Rick Strassman has been on your show, and kudos to Rick Strassman, because he was really the first scientist to work with DMT and human volunteers at the University of New Mexico. Rick Strassman is open to the idea that what happens with DMT is that it alters the receiver wavelength of the brain, and that it allows us to gain access to other realities, that these encounters are not unreal, that they're real, but they're real on a level that we can't experience in a day-to-day state of consciousness. We have to be in an altered state of consciousness in order to experience them. And ultimately, the aim of this project is to map the DMT realm. You know, we talk a lot about extraterrestrials and ETs and making contact, and I'm sure the universe is filled with life, and it would be a very good thing to have the tech to make contact, or perhaps not a good thing, with all those other life forms in the universe. But right there in the DMT experience, inside our own heads, we have the opportunity to encounter another world, another realm, entities who are very different from ourselves and who have teachings to give us. And I think we should be spending a lot more research funds on exploring those experiences and finding out what's going on, rather than zooming off to other planets. Let's do both, but let's make sure that we understand that the consciousness is an enormous mystery, and at the level of consciousness, DMT opens up literally a parallel world. And there's a nexus here with quantum physics, and with the notion of parallel realms and parallel realities. Maybe we can actually access them. Well, the work at Imperial College ultimately is going to come up with some answers on that.
And so much more cost effective.
So much more cost effective.
Traveling to other galaxies.
Yeah. I mean, let's do that first.
Yeah.
Let's understand what we are. Let's understand what our consciousness is. Let's not just keep locked in this, we're here to produce, we're here to consume, we're here to buy cars. Sure, we're here, those are all part of our life today, but it's not all of us. We're much more mysterious, much deeper creatures than that. And psychedelics offer a doorway into another way of exploring human consciousness. And when we do that, we find that there are unseen realities all around us that can be made visible in a deeply altered state of consciousness. And yes, in terms of research funds, it's so much cheaper than trying to, fly off to Mars or wherever. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that if we're going to do that, we need to explore the mystery of consciousness. And if we're going to if we're seriously going to engage with the ET abduction phenomenon, with extraterrestrial, so-called extraterrestrials encounters, we must recognize that fundamental to this is consciousness. It's not just physical contact. There's consciousnesses involved. I wrote a book back in 2005 called Supernatural Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. And it is astonishing, Joe, how encounters that were described as encounters with elves and fairies in the Middle Ages, encounters that shamans to this day describe as encounters with spirits, that all the characteristics of those encounters apply to encounters with so-called extraterrestrials today. It's as though in each generation, each civilization, we construe experiences according to our cultural background. So they called them fairies and elves in the Middle Ages. Shamans called them spirits. We call them ETs today. But if we're really going to crack this problem, and it is a problem, and it is a mystery, I'm not dismissing it, it's a very important mystery. If we're going to crack it, we're going to have to use psychedelics to explore the mysteries of consciousness.
Yeah, I am very excited that the attitudes about this stuff from the general public, people are much more open-minded now than ever before.
Yeah.
I mean, ever in my lifetime. I remember discussing with people doing DMT in the early 2000s, and people are like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you, crazy?
Exactly.
And now almost everybody and their cousin has a story about, trying ayahuasca or doing psilocybin or having some sort of an experience with peyote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very very widespread, and I would say it's part of an overall change in our society, which is extremely healthy, which is the change of just accepting what the experts tell us. Oh, a scientist said this, so it must be true. We're starting to think for ourselves, and we're not willing any longer to be told what to think. We're wanting to find out for ourselves, and that attitude has very much affected the way that people relate to psychedelics. And when people explore the psychedelic experience in a responsible way, and psychedelics are very serious business. You and I both know this. They're very, very serious business. I would not encourage children to take psychedelics. But actually, if we want to keep children away from psychedelics, we'd be far better to make them legal than leave them illegal and available on the black market. I think it's something for the mature mind. But I regard it as a fundamental human right of adults to be able to explore our unconsciousness so long as we do no harm to others. And I see this attitude spreading much more widely in society. What the hell is that guy in a suit? What right has he got to tell me how I treat my own health or how I treat my own consciousness? So long as I do no harm to others, that is entirely my business and nobody else's.
This is so dangerous.